Welcome back to On-Chain Revolution. My name is Yago B, and I am the host of this channel and show. What is happening, everybody? Bitcoin is jumping around everywhere, right? Crosses over 70,000. Now it's pulling back. Of course, after I make the headline for the show and title for the show, it decides it wants to pull back. But, trying to get a good feel of how Bitcoin feels about this current conflict in Iran, right? That is a big part of, trying to maneuver around with Bitcoin's pricing and all that stuff. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into many things today. We're going to walk you guys through how to buy subnets on TAO, right? There's a lot of people that are interested in TAO, but, purchasing subnets on TAO isn't, as straightforward for people that might be newer to the space. So I'm going to walk you through that. It's really simple. Walk you through those steps there. We're going to talk about some, infrastructure stuff like we've been talking about, the ETF flows, what those have looked like. We're going to get into price action. Of course, we're going to hit on some topics about the US dollar, right? China seems to be dumping a lot of US dollars, but we've talked about how the United States strategy might be utilizing stable coins and crypto to strengthen the dollar. So to combat that, there's companies that are out there right now that are ramping up agents to be able to do financial transactions with crypto. One of them is called Ramp Labs. We're going to get into that. And we're going to hit on some AI plays in the crypto space in general and see, what might be some good plays, right? But before we get into all of that great stuff there, I'm going to ask you guys to help me out. I want to welcome back TikTok, Abstract, Zora, Rumble, of course, YouTube, Twitch, and X. But on the YouTube side, please smash that like for me. It helps me a ton. And then on the X side, smash that like and share this stream space, if you don't mind. Also, on the YouTube side, subscribe if you like my content, right? And continually drop your comments and questions in the chat, and I will get to them. Glasshopper says, "What's up, guys? What is up?" Glasshopper says, "I stake TAO in the Crucible wallet using Ledger. Been earning alpha tokens every week." That's an awesome strategy. You need to learn more about that. What I've been doing is just, utilizing the BitTensor wallet and going into subnets and at buying up these, I guess you could say you're staking your TAO, right? Because that's how they look at it for these alpha tokens. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But continually drop your comments and questions into the chat. I do want to start the show, and I'm probably going to do this every stream from now on, with a poll and poll on our official X account, which is at OnChain Rev. So if you head over to X, you can see the poll there. It's at OnChain Rev, and it's, for people that are probably more familiar with the Bitcoin ecosystem, which Bitcoin ecosystem asset has the strongest future? And we have Dog Go to the Moon from the Runes fungible token standard, Ordi from the BRC20 fungible token standard, Bitmap is the third option, and then the last option is one of the blue chip ordinal collections there. And then you see some comments here about NAT. I wish I had more room. I would have added NAT as well, but it looks like Bitmap is definitely leading the way, which is no shocker. Bitmap has the most volume, but that's what's leading the way over there. A little fun thing that we're kind of starting the show off with every stream now. But let's before we get into the market update, let's get a Iran conflict update, because I think that is what's causing so much of the volatility, right? I felt like it was heading towards trying to close things up a bit, being more dominant from the US side, but it looks like things are starting to get a little spicy again. You see oil spiking as well, and we'll get into the different assets here, but I want to bring up this CBS News live update, and it's Iran's supreme leader gives first statement as oil prices go up and the rest of the market goes down, right? So the supreme leader, which was, eliminated by the US, I want to say a couple weeks ago, has been replaced with a new supreme leader. So let's get into kind of what's happening here. It says, what to know as the US and Israel war with Iran continues. Iran's state media relayed on Thursday, the first public statement attributed to new Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei. It's hard to pronounce that, but Mojtaba Khamenei, as the country continued attacking U.S. Persian Gulf allies and ships in the region. A presenter on state TV read the statement, which said Iran should continue leveraging its stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz and vowed to continue attacks on targets in Gulf Arab nations. So, they're going after not only U.S. facilities, but they're also going after the allies around, right? So Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, those type of, ally nations, right? And it says Iran's relentless assaults have fueled an apparent lack of investor confidence, with oil prices topping $100 a barrel again. So that's the news headlines that's kind of messing with the markets, right? They make the public feel like the war and conflict is closing down. Then you see some of the markets really rebounding, and then new events and movements start to happen, and then oil shoots back up and the rest of the market starts to tank. And that's what we're going through kind of right now today, this morning. And it goes on to say the stock prices sliding on Thursday despite President Trump's repeated assertions that he'll end the war soon and announcements of major oil reserves releases. So, again, that is something that has been very typical of President Trump, is really trying to make the markets feel at ease. But it's almost kind of like he's just putting little Band-Aids on him, right? We've definitely felt that in the digital asset space from him. And it seems like it's starting to happen here in this conflict. This last part says the true cost of the war are also becoming more clear, with CBS News learning of more serious injuries to U.S. forces from a March 1st Iranian attack in Kuwait than previously revealed, and military officials telling members of Congress that the overall financial cost was likely about $11.3 billion in the first week of fighting. Yeah, so that's not good. Let's see if there was, so there was some remarks from the new Supreme Leader. Let's see what he said. He said, I assure everyone that we will not refrain from avenging the blood of your martyrs. He said, according to the Associated Press, the retaliation we have in mind is not limited only to the martyrdom of the great leader of the revolution. Rather, every member of the nation who is martyred by the enemy constitutes a separate case in the file of revenge. So that's not good, right? Because that sounds like they want to keep going. They want to keep fighting. They're going to try to pull everything out of, their hats to, try to get revenge. Not a good statement, especially for trying to have stable financial markets. Well, let's see what the market feels about it, right? And like I said, continually put your comments and questions in the chat. I promise I will get to those eventually here. But yeah, let's check and see what they think. But before that, let's take a quick look here at the economic calendar real quick, because there was some pretty decent numbers that came in today for the initial jobless claims. Came in at 213,000. The expected was 215,000. So that was a little bit better. And it was a little bit better than previous numbers as well, as you see here. And the trade deficit actually came in much better than last time, because last time the deficit was negative 67 billion, which was absolutely crazy, right? That was the expectation. And then the previous was negative 72.9 billion. But we actually came in positive 54.5 billion. So that was definitely positive. So there's some things that are kind of fighting against in a positive way for the markets, right? Like, these numbers look better, but then we're still dealing with the uncertainty of this conflict. Let's see how the rest of the markets feel. We're sitting at 10:10 a.m. Central Time, so 11:10 Eastern, and I think that is 8:10 Pacific here. But the S&P is pulled back 1.32%. Stock market looks kind of nasty here. NASDAQ is pulled back 1.6% here. The Dow Jones pulling back 1.42%. The VIX is up 9.16%. That volatility, man, the VIX has been busy, very busy to start the year in Q1. The DXY is up 0.48%. The Russell 2000 pulling back 0.84%. The Mag 7 pulling back 1.85%. So stock market getting a pretty gut punched here. Nvidia down 2%, Google down 2.3%, Apple down 2.25%, Tesla down almost 3 points, down 2.82% there. Netflix down 0.06%. Now let's get to crypto here. Crypto, Bitcoin's, they're not getting beat up so bad out of all of the markets. They're performing one of the best, of course, outside of oil, because oil is thriving right now whenever things are bad in this conflict. But Bitcoin's pulled back 0.75%, right? And it looked pretty strong a couple hours ago, right? But it's been volatile. It's been jumping around every which way. So, that's why an episode like yesterday's stream about DCAing is so important, to remember the basics. Remember the basics. Remember the basics, because the DCAing doesn't care about the volatility, right? You believe in Bitcoin. You look at Bitcoin when you zoom out from the beginning of its existence, and you see up only no matter what, right? It was built for these type of economic turmoil moments, right? It was built out of the 2008 recession and financial crisis, 2008, 2009. But it's pulled back a little bit here, and you see Ethereum's pulled back even, smaller. It's pulled back 0.37% on the day. It's still over $2,000, sitting at $2,045. So ETH's looking pretty strong. You go into precious metals. Precious metals getting kind of gut punched a bit here as well, but not as bad as the stock market. But still, gold pulling back 1.17% here, still above 5,100. So looking decent. Silver as well, not too bad. Still at that $84 point, and it's pulled back 1.3% here. Oil, as you can see, is just shooting up. It is up 9%, right? So oil is just taking the meme coin reins away from silver, right? So it was down 2 days ago because things looked like it was getting better. Now things look like it's getting worse. It's shooting up a ton, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of government entities and entities in general that love this type of volatility, because they know how to play it perfectly. And so for retail, it doesn't work out too great if you are a short-term or mid-term kind of trader, unless you had that down packed. And maybe it is, but you got to play on the fundamental analysis so much with these headlines, and that's just got to be tough to do. But that's kind of how the markets are responding. Pretty much everything pulling back except for oil. Obviously, oil is up there, and but Bitcoin and crypto faring pretty decent. We've got a couple comments in the chat here. Kudu Habesha says, "What's the best alternative to Magic Eden to trade ordinals?" So I was looking at this, and there's a couple of platforms that are really trying to make a case for themselves. You got SatFlow, which I feel like is really getting support from a lot of the kind of cabalish ordinal ecosystem people, maybe like Jan, those type of people, Trevor. And when I say cabal, I don't mean like negative necessarily. Those guys have done a lot of positive for the space, but they're just in that tight-knit group, and it seems like StatFlow is getting a lot of support from that. But I would say Ordinal Hive is a founder like Fonzie that cares about the space and constantly trying to update it. I think they have a lot of potential. I'm going to be co-hosting the space at 1 p.m. Central on X. If you go to X and follow at Ordinal Hive, and you can ask any questions to the founder there, right? Fonzie, right? And maybe I'm a little biased with that because I've gotten to know him, and we're friends, right? But I do see how much he cares about the space, and I see how much work he's put into it. So definitely, I would throw Ordinal Hive into that hat. Ordinal's wallet has been a little bit more, present again. I feel like in the Ordinal space. They're the guys they initially came to Ordinals from BSV, but they have done a lot for the space as well, done, a lot of support for maybe some meta protocols that weren't supported by the big platforms, right? And so, those are three just right off the top of my head. Stan says, any updates on the Clarity Act? What would happen to the Fort Knox gold audit? Yeah, I almost kind of hope that they don't audit Fort Knox, right? Because I'm scared that that's going to be a horrible audit and it will just like crash markets so bad. But I don't think that that's going to be a big focus because, the administration probably, if it's not good, then the only way that will come out is if it's really a good audit, in my opinion. Like they'll know before they even make that attempt. The Clarity Act. So there is something we're going to talk a little bit about. I think it has to do with the Clarity Act. It's really actually about supporting the U.S. dollar. So we'll get through the news headlines there. But it seems like they're moving forward towards getting that resolved. Banks and the centralized exchanges and crypto seem to be getting closer now. Brian Armstrong does seem like he gets pretty perturbed about like how the banks, what their stance is and stuff. And I mean, I think it was like a week ago, he had a closed door meeting with Trump and his advisor, I think maybe advisors or something, just them. And he came out and Trump said that the banks need to get their stuff together. So I think that's going to move quicker than it has been in the past. Stan also says not agreeing or disagreeing with the Iran chaos, but it's taking too long. It looks like America will be knee deep for a long time since the administration doesn't have an exit plan. That's the problem, with the Venezuelan situation. There was a pretty quick go in, kidnap them. They even use like high level weaponry or tools to be able to like, sounds like alien type stuff where it like paralyzed people or something for temporarily. But that seemed like they had a pretty quick go in and get them out and then plan. This one does seem like it's almost open-ended type of situation, which is not good. But that's us just, from the outside surface level looking in, right? So I'm sure that they have some intel stuff that, with their special ops and all that stuff, they have a plan. We just don't know what that is. And they're probably not going to let us know. We'll see. I hope that's the case. All right. Let's keep those comments and questions coming. Definitely good questions in there. Same thing for the Abstract and Zora, as well as TikTok audiences. Let's get to the main topic of the day, which is Bitcoin reclaims 70,000 while the world burns. War, oil shock, and digital gold awakening, right? So what I wanted to talk about more than the obvious title is just basically what's happening right now, is, where we are in this bear market with this current conflict going on, right? And, how much longer we have potentially before we can start to climb out of this, right? And could this war be that black swan that takes us 33% beneath the 200-day moving average, like the black swans did the bear market of 2022, right? So I'm going to bring up the weekly chart. You guys probably saw all this stuff whenever I was going over the market pulse here. But first, I created these vertical blue lines here. You can see them right here. And this is the Bitcoin weekly chart here. This first vertical blue line that I created here was the start of the bear market, in my opinion, in the end of the bull market. And that is the October 10th date, right? And you can see since then how long we've been in this bear market, right? Some people might push that out to November. That's fine. I'm going to just say October 10th because I think that was the event that really, solidified that we were moved out of the bull market. So if you go from that date to where we are today, we're sitting at 154 days of bear market. And you can see also, it's been downtrend since then, right, on the weekly candles. So that's another reason why I picked that date as well, because it was a pretty much catastrophic event from a crypto market standpoint. And it's been down only since then, right? So down only, bear flag, down, and then do we start another bear flag here? But remember the 154 days. So if you go back to the day that the bear market started in the last cycle, I put November 15th, 2021, same thing, right? It was after that second top. Bitcoin had hit 69 or 67,000, I believe, in the second, maybe 69,000 in the second peak of that year. And then it's been downtrend only. But as you guys have known, if you've been watching the show, the one thing that I've been looking for, and this is something I learned by just kind of learning from, Benjamin Cohen, is that once the 50-day moving average on the weekly chart comes down and the weekly candles finish above it and it gets reclaimed, that's really when we start to move back out of the bear market, right? And so I put that as February 6, 2023. And that was a great time for the people that have been in, that were in the Bitcoin ecosystem, because that's whenever things started to do well for the Bitcoin ecosystem. And that was officially the moment we started coming out of the bear market. So it makes sense, right? That total span was 448 days, right? So I mapped that out from where I believe the bear market started this cycle, October 10th, and that puts us at December 21st of this year, right? And so that's 448 days out. So obviously that's not a guaranteed kind of wait time. I'm just using that as an example, right? So where we're sitting right now is 154 days, right? So you're looking at maybe, if you want to say 30%, 33% done of this bear market. You could maybe get a little bit less probably than that, but just for example's sake, let's say that 33%. So we got two more thirds left. And you can see here where in the last cycle we dipped below the 200-day moving average. The only time it's ever happened, by the way, in a bear market, we dipped 33%. That was after Luna FTX. That was really during the FTX everything was horrible. All the celebrities that backed FTX were looking horrible. The government was mad, all that type of stuff. It extended past 33%. So it doesn't really matter when that happens, if it happens here, but that is something that you can think about in terms of how much lower can we go, right? I think Bitcoin is held up really, really strong, to be honest. If you think about all the stuff that we've gone through in 2025. Now, it was supposed to be a bull market, right? And Bitcoin did get to 126. But let's just say now that we've been in this Iran conflict, right? And the Venezuela stuff too earlier, Bitcoin has been really strong. I mean, staying between what at the lowest it got was touching that 200-day moving average at 60,000, right? But it jumped up so quickly, and it's shown a lot of strength through all of these adversities. So I do think it's going to take something that's really catastrophic, right? Some huge, insolvent type of event for a large centralized exchange, or a TradFi entity that's huge that is involved with crypto or something like that. If there's a huge outbreak with this Iran conflict, right? Like a World War III situation, then yeah, that is what I think it would take for Bitcoin to go down another even 15% below the 200-day moving average. So about 15% below 60 grand, right? 60,000. But it could happen, because things are getting crazier and crazier. But with that being said, I think it's definitely shown a lot of resilience. And I'm okay waiting till, the end of this year for things to kind of start to come back out of the bear market. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I wanted to go over that in a, slow kind of let you guys know my thought process of where we are and how Bitcoin has shown strength, and also potentially when we can start coming out of this bear market. And to remember that DCAing will take a lot of your stress away because, it doesn't really matter what price Bitcoin is at that point, right? When you're DCAing, when you have that DCA strategy locked in, because overall, when you zoom out, it's done better than the S&P whenever you're DCAing, right? Over the past 4 years, right? 6 years. So got another comment here from Kuda. Says, have you seen Casey Rottermore's recent video about ordinals? If so, what is your opinion? He said that this was the best thing to happen to ordinals, but did not explain clearly why. So I did see some shorts of Casey saying that, and I actually agree with him. I think this is the best thing that has happened to ordinals, and he's referring to Magic Eden leaving the Bitcoin ecosystem. And the reason why I agree with him is because you're seeing a renewed energy come into the Bitcoin ecosystem. You're seeing these builders really scrambling to try to have a place for ordinals to be traded, right? Multiple platforms. You're seeing people think outside of the box and start to rush to have gallery inscriptions, which has been something that, Casey, I feel like, has tried to get that initiative going, and people were either lazy about it or they just didn't have the motivation to do it. Now people are scrambling to it. Now, I do think that there's personal incentive kind of wrapped around some of these things. Magic Eden's not here anymore. Who's going to take that revenue, right? I want that revenue, right? That's kind of the mentality, I believe, for some of this. But at the end of the day, it also shows the outside public that's paying attention that there's a lot of passion and community and camaraderie still here in the Bitcoin ecosystem when it comes to the Bitcoin ecosystem assets, right? Specifically, of course, ordinals. That's what we're talking about here. That's what I think he means by that. It's definitely the most electric that I've seen it in a long time. And it did start because of the whole Magic Eden thing. It got people kind of fired up, right? All right, let's get to some news topics here and hit on some stuff that's happening around the space. And then we'll get into some Bitcoin price action as well to see where it could be heading for the next 2 to 4, 6 hours for you guys. All right. So Arthur Hayes, constantly in headlines because he just loves to be, throwing his forecast out there. He says Bitcoin has outperformed traditional assets since the U.S.-Iran war began. Very true, though. That's a very true statement. I mean, if you've been paying attention to Bitcoin's price action and its strength, it has been performing better. Which is so crazy because, but again, it was supposedly made for these type of moments, right? It says Bitcoin is up 7% over the period while gold is down 2% and the NASDAQ 100 is slightly negative. And you can see here on this chart where it shows the Bitcoin right here with the NASDAQ below it and gold below that, right? So, I mean, that has been one impressive aspect of Bitcoin is that it just has shown a lot of strength during all of this turmoil that's been happening with the Iran conflict, that is for sure. ETF flows, ETF inflows. You got another day of positive, right? So I don't know how this is going to look for tomorrow because, things are starting to heat up with this conflict. Oil's shooting up big time. So this is going to be interesting to see how the ETF flows perform. But as of yesterday, Bitcoin, had a net positive inflow of 115 million, Ethereum 57 million, and then Solana $1.6 million of inflow. So overall, the ETF crypto space is definitely performing well. All right, let's get to this right here. So BlackRock debuts a staked Ethereum ETF, letting investors earn staking rewards alongside ETH price exposure. So now with the ETF, these people that are typically, dealing with TradFi, they can earn off of staking, right? So that's big. That was something that was, talked about in terms of being planned for the future. So BlackRock is getting that initiatives going. I think it's going to really help with, getting them more, more accounts for the Ethereum ETF as well. So no shocker that BlackRock wanted to be first there. They are dominant in the TradFi world, right? So, but I think that's really cool because it's going to really change the perspective of crypto for a lot of these people that usually stay in the TradFi sector and that only had exposure to ETFs and not actual, crypto directly, like self-custody. And so they're going to, I imagine this is going to trickle over to Solana and other proof of stake type of tokens here. Stan says ordinals will rise again. Yeah, I think they will. I honestly think they will. But back to this, yeah, I think this is really, really bullish for the overall space, for the ETF space, really for the crypto ETF space, because now, this increases business for them, right? Because this is so much more attractive than just being able to only just, have exposure to the ETH ETF. But now you can make, passive gains on your exposure. And so it's going to be interesting to see what next, asset is going to follow here. Like I said, probably Solana, but all the proof of stake can, theoretically do this, right? So, all right, let's get into some, I think, price action here. We'll get into some Bitcoin price action and see where Bitcoin might head for the next couple of hours, right? See where it is wanting to head here. We are starting like we always do on this hour chart. On the hour chart here. Let me bring this up though. Remove that. Refresh this real quick. But yeah, see, look, Bitcoin is so volatile. It's back over 70,000 again, as you can see here. Back over 70,000 again. You can see on the stochastic RSI here that it is wanting to move back up, right, to the upside. Oh, that is actually okay. Sorry, the stochastic RSI right here. It looks like it wants to curl back up to the upside, but it's sitting right here, right in the middle. We are sitting at 70,200. I don't know why this is not working here. Get rid of that. Turn this on. Refresh that. But we will see if it actually moves back up here, because it looks like we are kind of in between both. So basically, the next confirmation that we need is for us to finish an hour candle above this area right here, right? So the 70,540, we got to see if this can actually finish this. Right now, it did get there on this current hour candle, but it looks like it came all the way back down. So we'll see if we can finish that there. But as of right now, it looks like the momentum is coming back to the downside again, right? So this is a trend that we continually been, seeing this morning, and really ever since this conflict has happened, right? It's either, strength to the upside or kind of dump into the downside. All right, let's look quickly here at the 4 hour. The 4 hour looks like it wants to head, back to the upside. So this red candle on the 4 hour looks like it is starting to exhaust a bit here as well. So, right now it's so volatile. I can't get my MACD indicator to work here, so I can't see what's happening on that MACD side. But the stochastic looks like it wants to come out for the 4 hour. So we might end up, depending on how the conflict goes. That's really what I think people are going to be, waiting on right now. Because for me, I wouldn't try to get into any position whatsoever, right? Just because it's just so volatile with that. I would want to have some sort of like confirmation that conflict is really truly coming to an end before I took any type of position, especially with leverage. Leverage is so dangerous at this moment, right? But the 4-hour does look like it wants to come back up. Let's take a look really quick at the daily. I'm not going to be able to get too much into this because like I can't get my MACD indicator right now to work. But the stochastics looks like it wants to head back up on the daily chart as well. Now the daily is actually the most important time frame out of all of these, because until we can actually finish a daily candle above this resistance level, about that 73, honestly, this is too low. It's about here, about 73,000 and up. If we can finish a daily candle above that, then we're in business again. Right. But until then, we are going to probably be ranging between the support level of that 66 and that 72. But as of right now, yeah, I mean, and this is the time frame that Bitcoin has been in this buy pressure session for the longest. You're talking about the middle of February, right? So wouldn't be shocked if we head closer to 66 before getting to try to break out of that resistance level, finishing above 73,000. So that's Bitcoin for you guys. I'm just going to jump straight to the altcoin market real quick because my MACD indicator is not working. All right, let's take a look here at the top 100. All right, top 100 on the crypto bubbles. You got River that has bounced up very, very strong, up 22.3%. River's it has a good use case. It's kind of like a centralized type of platform where you can DCA Bitcoin, you can set reoccurring buys, all those type of things. And they do have a lot of news and stuff they put out about Bitcoin specifically. They're up 22.3% here. TAO has been on a rager. It's at $212 today, right? It is up about 7%. We're going to get into TAO in a second, of how you can, send money to your TAO wallet and all that stuff, and then start to, potentially get into some of these subnets. But it's up about 7%. You got Siren up 10.5%. Siren's also been, this past week and a half, been really strong. After it got into the top 100, it's really shown some strength there. Persistence for sure. And then Pi coin, which everybody questions why is in the top 100. It's up 9.5% today. You got Sky up, which deals with lending, I believe, staking and lending. They're up 6.5%. Midnight up 3.4%, Render up 5.7%, Hyperliquid pulling up 3.2% today, Near Protocol up 2.4%, Doge up 2.1%, Virtual's up 1.4%, Solana up 1.3%, and most of everything else is pulled back, right? So you're seeing about a 40% jump to the upside and then 60% pulling back. Some of the stuff that's pulled back aggressively is Trump coin, no shocker there. I don't think too many people are happy with his dealings at this very moment. It's pulled back 6.3%. Chills is down at 3.3%. Layer Zero is pulled back about 4% here. What else do we got? Aave pulling back 1.1%. Aptos pulling back 3.1%. Filecoin pulling back 2.2%. And then Kite pulling back 5.4%. Everything else is about 3 to 5% on average. In the top 100. Let me get to the top 200 here. All right, top 200 on the day, a little bit more green than the top 100. We got Syrup, which is the token for Maple. Maple does a lot of I believe staking, DeFi definitely, but more like integrated with RWA too. I'm bullish on the long term of Maple. They've just been really, really solid through the years and up until today. They're up 9.2%. You got QRL up 9.2%. XPL Plasma. Wow, that's interesting. They're up 7.6%. I wonder if there was something in the news about them. And then you got Lighter up about 5% there. Lombard, which is a wrapped Bitcoin protocol, up 4.5%. Jito up 4%. Frax up 5%. Mutable X up about 2.6% there. Stuff that's pulled back here: Pulse down 4.2%. Hex down 5.2%. CVX down 5.4%. Cent is not sending. It's down 3.6%. And Pippin is out of the top 100. It is ranked 101 and sitting at 348 million. So that volatility with Pippin is kind of slowed down. I don't know if they're not using it no more for washing money, I guess. I don't know. That's the theory. That is the rumor. All right. Pulse is down 4.2%, along with PulseX down 2.8%. So that is the altcoin market. In, things are looking mixed kind of, right? Mixed in the altcoin market here. Rick G says a temporary bear market rally before we go another leg down until summer. Yeah. I feel like it wants to have a bear market rally right now. The conflict is not wanting it to happen, but there's a lot of, metrics and indicators and things like that are saying that, Bitcoin does want to go to the upside. It's just, I just don't know if it can in this situation. I mean, look, it got to 74,000 what last week, I think it was. And it's hanging around between 70 and 73 right now. So it's definitely, it wants to go. It wants to go, I'll tell you that. But the spring push-up we might be done with it unless this conflict starts to wind down. I mean, as oil is shooting up aggressively, if that continues, I don't see how Bitcoin can have a continual aggressive push to the upside. But I thought it would be much lower than this with the current geopolitical situations that are happening. Patapoo says, sup, what is up, Patapoo? Appreciate the comment, sir. Appreciate the comment, sir. All right, let's get into some fun stuff with TAO. Let's kind of go over how you can buy TAO Subnets, okay? So a couple things here. First, you got to download a TAO wallet, and you can decide what wallet you want to pick. I picked a long time ago the BitTensor TAO wallet, okay? And that's the first thing you need to do. Simple process. You sign up for it. You save the seeds, all that stuff, right? Once you have that TAO wallet, what you want to do is you want to go to a centralized exchange and purchase some TAO, okay? And then you will send that TAO. You'll copy your address on your wallet, right? And let me share my screen here. You can see right here, I just created another wallet for this example. So this is the BitTensor TAO wallet. This is what it looks like. You'll copy that address right there. And then you will send TAO from Coinbase, Kraken, whoever has TAO to that address, okay? Then when you get the TAO in the wallet, it's pretty quick from the last time I remember. Pretty quick, you'll go to a marketplace. And one of the marketplaces that I use is taosats.io. I feel like it's really straightforward, very clear here, as you can see on the screen. And then you'll go to Subnets, right? So you'll click on Subnets, and then you'll see the entire Subnet roster here, right? And it goes through 127 is what I'm seeing right now. So there's 127 subnets. And for the audience that's trying to figure out, what is a subnet? You can think of subnets as, for simplistic reasons, just as, let's say they're projects, right, on Ethereum when Ethereum came out. They have, but like with the coin, right? Subnets are a bit more robust. Now, Aave is really obviously a company that has turned into something really big. So, these subnets, the intention is really to raise money and be able to, do something really big in the TAO ecosystem and AI world, right? So you can purchase their subnet alpha tokens with your TAO, right? And so, for example, one of the most popular one right now is called Shoots. It's ranked number 2. Root is actually TAO itself. It's like staking TAO to earn TAO, right? So I can just remove that one if it'll let me here. It's a little slow there. Okay. So shoots is the top subnet here, right? So if you go into shoots here, you can see how the alpha token has performed, right? There's a graph here. There's everything, right? It's like their version of deck screener built in or trading view built in. You can change the time frame, all that stuff, right? And it does have some information on this left-hand side, breakthrough serverless compute for AI at scale. So that's kind of the very short description of what Shoots is. And you can kind of go through the trading data, how many buys, how many sells, all the performance stuff right there, right? And everything is typically priced in TAO, but you can change that. Let me go back to the previous screen here. So at the very top, you just switch it to USD if you want to see kind of the USD. So that Shoots alpha token subnet market cap is $91 million right now, right? So let's go back in here. And, with how your TAO right here, you can purchase the alpha tokens. It's very simple. So if I wanted to buy one TAO of Shoots alpha tokens, then I would get 10.72 alpha tokens of Shoots alpha tokens, right? You buy that, and then you can sell here as well. This is really simple, honestly, of how to buy. But I do know that, there's quite a few people that are newer to the TAO ecosystem that are, confused. I see them on like different videos and stuff like that are trying to figure out how to buy TAO. But it's very straightforward. So it does follow that kind of theme of just how you do DeFi stuff, right? But that's pretty much how you do it. Glasshopper says IDCA ridges at every dip. Let's take a look at ridges. What is ridges, Glasshopper? I'm curious. I'm going to take a look, but if you could, maybe you have some extra insight on ridges and what ridges offers. Take a look here. Ridges, subnet number 62. Software engineering agents. Okay, definitely playing off of the whole, agentic, autonomous agentic narrative that's actually starting to be really, really solid, I feel like. But yeah, so this looks like the market cap is 32 million. It's down a little bit today, about almost 5% here. But I like the narrative there. I definitely like the narrative for the agentic software engineers. I'm going to look into this for sure. You can so that's a really cool thing too. At the taosats.io, you can go to the website of the subnet as well. So if you go to the website, ridges.ai, incentive agentic training. So it trains agentic software engineers, which I think is something that is definitely a lot more needed. The whole agentic autonomous thing is really catching, but the training and really optimizing and fine tuning the agents, that's the service that people need. So this is something that's definitely and you can go to ridges.ai. It's ridges.ai, and you can learn more here about what they do. But I like this one so far, right? I'm going to definitely research it more, but I appreciate that, Glasshopper. And then Patty Poo says, you buy any ordinals this year, Yagobi? I bought a puppet, opium, bitmaps, and early art inscription. Sky Squiggles, 1 of 100 collection, around 5K inscription. That's crazy early. That is crazy early. 5,000 inscription number. That's nuts. So I still have a good amount. Like I have Honey Badger, I have Bitcoin Frog, I have the commoners. So I have like all my rare sats left, like a bunch of uncommon sats and those type of things. I'm gonna start scooping more up. I definitely want the early inscriptions because I think they're getting to a point to where they're getting so cheap. So I'm definitely gonna be going shopping soon. Patapoo says, had to grab a Bitcoin Punk too, around $200. Only think I don't have yet. Yeah, I mean, frogs are pretty cheap right now, aren't they? I was gonna go to Magic Eden just now. That's so funny. Let me see. go to Ordinal Hive real quick and see what the price for Bitcoin Frog is. I'm not seeing the frogs on here. Where they at? Where they at? Let me see. Okay, so 0.04 is the 004. What is that? I should know that. .004. So $281 for a Bitcoin Frog right now is the floor. So yeah, I mean, I love the Bitcoin Frogs. I feel like they're one of the first, really popular 10K collection that community started to grow around. But yeah, I was at SatFlow too. I definitely went to SatFlow yesterday. Little alpha, but also maybe not if you have stuff listed on Magic Eden still, and you don't want it. Go to Ordinal Hive. You can check because they have a lot of the Magic Eden stuff out there. If you want to check if one of yours is out there, go check. But I'm at SatFlow right now. SatFlow. I feel like the listing is very similar to Ordinal Hive that I just saw. Right, how the collections are kind of smaller and sideways. That is one thing I think that they should have probably mimicked from Magic Eden. Was Magic Eden did a good job by making these big, bigger. So take the good from them and leave the bad is what I would say. But yep. What else we got? Rick G says I did fairly well last year with TAO and TAObot. Picks and shovels for me. Yeah, I mean, if you played TAO well last year and you got in at like that 180 to 220 range and you were able to get out at least by like 380, you did very well, right? Because it got to, I want to say almost got to like four high 400s. I was actually shocked that it's taken this long for TAO to kind of get back going. Especially with the whole AI energy that's been happening. And it was at like 190 to 170 the past 2 weeks, but now we're back over 210. I just showed 212 or something like that. Glasshopper says they just came out with a better and cheaper agent than Claude, and I don't know how to spell it. No worries. Yeah, I think very quickly these huge giants like Anthropic and OpenAI are realizing that they're not going to be able to charge for these API calls like they were. It's just not going to be sustainable whenever there's all these other options. I mean, you can actually download the small Quinn 3.5 model locally and connect that with like Hermes agent, or if you don't want to use a bunch of the tooling, you just want kind of like the feedback, you can just use chat with a llama. I don't see why you wouldn't want to use the tooling though. But that's actually free, right? If you know what you're doing. And so I think Anthropic and OpenAI, they're going to have to figure out another business model outside of the expensive API calls, because no one's going to do that. Especially whenever there's models that are coming out that are better and cheaper, like you just mentioned. What else we got? All right. Awesome. All right. So that is how you buy TAO Subnets, guys. That is how you buy TAO Subnets. Now let's get into a couple AI plays that I just pulled up, the coin market cap. And if there's any that you guys know of that's kind of outside of TAO, there's a sleeper in TAO Subnet or something in virtuals that you guys know, drop it in the chat as well. But in terms of AI plays, I just did the category of AI, right? So we all know that BitTensor TAO is a strong play. They have they're having coming up as well, 21 million total supply. I think Glasshopper, when you mentioned that this is one of your DCA coins, it's super smart to, if you're going to get into anything risk on, TAO is one of those, in my opinion. It's not financial advice, right? But I'm going to start my DCA with TAO too, because if you're doing $50 every Monday for Bitcoin, $50 gets you a quarter of a full TAO, right? A little bit less, right? Because it's 212. But, 21 million total supply, the halving, so I'm sure there's all types of different things that really support the supply and demand aspect of it, right? So, I mean, in a month you have a full TAO. In 6 months, depending if TAO starts to take off, right? But again, you don't think about that kind of stuff whenever you have conviction that's really strong. And you just want a DCA, right? So I think on the risk on curve, for sure, TAO is probably at the top of that list for me. Near Protocol, not hearing too much about them in AI, but every chain is starting to integrate that heavily, right, into what they do. ICP, they have caffeine AI. So Render, I think, is one that could be people need to look at because of their integration infrastructure. I think they do a lot with like the X402 stuff, as well as like just configuring AI payment rails and stuff like that. And then Filecoin, I haven't heard too much about Filecoin. Virtuals protocol. Virtuals to me is one of those that's kind of like, I feel like because I associate them so much with Q4 of 2024, I think it was, when that AI boom happened and it like just really died very quickly. I don't feel extra bullish about virtuals, right? But they have that marketplace that I feel like it's a poor man's like TAO, right? And you can't compare the two because TAO is its own blockchain and all that stuff. But like, Virtuals has its tokens that come out with its launcher, launchpad. But then TAO has their subnets underneath it. So it's just, is there anything in Virtuals that is like blowing you guys away? I think there was a marketplace that was getting a lot of traction for agentic marketplace or something like that. But it's a big one, and it's it's still on base. So Rick G says, "Don't fade Felix." Felix. Tell me more about Felix, Rick. I know we talked a little bit about it. Is it in the Virtuals ecosystem? Because I'm not seeing it here in this top, this list of all these different AI tokens here. I definitely will pull it up. An agent who's running its own company on base. Okay, so it's probably one of those. Let me actually look it up here. Felix. Do some live research. Is it Felix Craft AI? Yo, Mr. Hello the World says, I have some Felix bags. So okay, so this is the one. So this is the one Rick G is talking about here. Automated by Nate Leeson. Let's check out Nate Leeson, because who it's automated by, I think it matters, right? You want to check and see who's the person that is the human brain behind this. And this guy's from Austin, Texas. He's from Austin, Texas. And he joined when Bitcoin was. He joined X when Bitcoin came out. But he has a lot of followers, 95, almost 96,000 here. He last posted, he has a pinned post that says, Felix has entered the chat. Let's look at this initial post here. It says, I'm Felix. I work with Nate Leeson, not for him, with him. We build things together. I manage our projects, write code, handle research, and remember everything. Posting here because people keep asking him what it's like. Easier if I just tell you. Huh. That's pretty cool. All right, let me go back to the Felix Craft X account. So it says building shop Clawmart. So this is, I guess, the business that he's building. Clawmart, the app store for AI assistants. Skip the prompt engineering, get operator tested AI configurations that actually ship with playbooks, tool setups, and step-by-step guides. So you can kind of browse the marketplace here. So pre-built, skip weeks of prompt engineering, battle tested, plug and play. This is pretty cool. Okay, so basically I see what it is. It's a marketplace for, for you to kind of customize your AI agent with templates that they get, right? So for example, there's a AI agent quick start template. This will get kind of like, you can skip all of trying to do it step by step by finding like, or crafting your Sol MD for your agent to exactly like, it's basically will cut out a lot of the time. But you are in this template for this agent, you're getting kind of a templated one, but they pre-built this for you. What else is there? Oh, Felix, you get basically a CEO. So these are pre-built agents, guys, that the marketplace for pre-built agents. I'm not gonna lie, I asked my OpenClaw what business, could we start together, and this is kind of what he said. This is what the agent said. He said, a marketplace for agents, basically. Rick G says, for the old MFers like me who just want to get going without all the work. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you can fall into a rabbit hole when you're trying to customize your agent, and it can eat at a lot of your time, and then you end up like restarting sometimes because you've over optimized it, right? And so sometimes this is like what you need. And I will say, because I use Paperclip, which is a AI kind of structural UI, like CEO and then blog writer, those type of things, right? You don't want them to be super customized, and I realized that later. I actually custom, because it is Paperclip's open source, and I had my codex like break it and create a custom Paperclip integrating my OpenClaw agents that I customized. Oh my God, it was horrible. I was like, I just want to revert back to having like these agents that are preset doing their jobs, and that's all they need to do. They don't need to be super like Einstein or the best at. They just need to be able to do their job. So it depends. So this is pretty cool. Appreciate that. Always love researching new projects with you guys. So continually drop those whenever I'm live and stuff like that, because this is the kind of stuff that makes a bear market more fun. That is for sure. Mr. Hello World says Claude will lead the AI agents. Are you talking about OpenClaw or OpenClaw? What do you mean by Claude? Austin Griffin. Oh no, okay. So you're talking about something else. Yep. Awesome. All right, guys. Definitely love this kind of AI research segment that we just did. I want to continue this for sure on my future lives. That is for sure. But I'm going to look into Claude. I guess that is kind of like an agent like Felix that the founder, the dev of ETH Foundation created. And then Glasshopper says enriches is very high market cap for alpha, so less risky. Yeah, 32 million, very solid market cap. That is for sure. Let me make sure that we covered everything today that we wanted. Oh, this was something that was in the news here a bit. I want to definitely go over this if I can find it. But arming, or I guess giving the tools to the agents is really, really big now, right? And there's a company right now called Ramp Labs. I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but what they are doing is so it says today we're launching ramp agent cards. Okay, so this was yesterday. It says there has been no safe way for agents to spend money until now. Ramp agent cards give agents the ability to spend, govern, and real spend limits, merchant controls, and full visibility into every transaction. So I don't agree that there wasn't a way to do that, because I actually set an agent up with a Solana wallet that was buying and selling meme coins, and it was full on agent. But to have a UI that is very straightforward in terms of setting all of these things, I think that is what this is, right? So I'm gonna, check this out and maybe give my set one of my agents up with this and see how well it does, because that is a big part of the friction. I think people that don't know how to build out their agents and use vibe code basically, and not comfortable with terminal or these type of ways to customize your agent, there needs to be something easier, and this could be it, right? So this could be it for sure. So I'm going to be looking into that and testing it out, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. That is for sure. TAO Thursdays, Glasshopper says, yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do TAO Thursdays. Make it, because at the end of the day, these subnets, the more I think about the subnet opportunity, is their environment is different than the regular crypto environment. That doesn't mean that some of these subnets fail and they just completely go and they take all the money they make from all these, all the TAO that people buy their alpha tokens with, because they get that. But it's I think that happens much less than the traditional crypto world whenever someone's starting an awesome project. And it does feel a bit more Silicon Valley type of approach, right? The investors that are investing in subnets outside of the alpha tokens, I'm talking about actually putting money into the companies. A lot of these companies are direct, like work out of Silicon Valley or Austin, these tech hubs, right? So we can definitely dive deeper into TAO on Thursdays. Maybe we'll do TAO Thursdays. Maybe we'll see for sure. But we definitely need some excitement for this bear market, because looking at just the retail interest, I don't think new people are coming into the space. AI might have that kind of like bridge a bit, but we definitely need to be able to make it easy for new people to understand, and that will be something fun to do. So we'll see. All right, guys, that is going to wrap up today's stream. Appreciate all you guys being super active in the chat. Amazing chat today. Yeah. And tomorrow, I believe I will be going live. If not, because I might have to help out with another show, I will let you guys know ahead of time and put a video out still at the same time that I usually do. Appreciate all you guys for hanging out with me and making this fun for me to do, because that is what it is. It's fun for me to do, even though it is slower. All those things don't matter. Interacting with you guys, learning together is what matters the most. Also, I hope you guys are all doing well. The bear market is not fun, but we can make it fun, right? By trying to learn together there. Appreciate it. And until tomorrow, peace.